Welcome to The Heart of Health Live. There's a place for modern medicine in your life. Learn to use it correctly by getting your toughest questions answered on today's broadcast. Discover modern medicine's strengths and weaknesses. Lifestyle medicine opens the door to optimum health and healing. How you live and what you eat can profoundly affect mind and body. Learn simple solutions to complex problems. God provides the ultimate healing we all desire. He wants us healthy and happy. We just need to understand His plan for our lives and live accordingly. And now, live from Studio 1A in Chattanooga, Tennessee, here's your Heart of Health host, Dr. James Marcum.
Welcome, everyone. We're glad you joined us, and we want to especially welcome those that might be watching on a new network. That's the Walk Television Network. We want to welcome you. We also want to let you know that little graphic you see that says live, that's where you could be a part of the program. If you have a question or comment for a guest, give us a call at 855-644-3278. Now, the Heart of Health Live is a little bit different than other health programs, and we're glad you're tuned in today. One of the things we like to do is we don't have gimmicks. We're not trying to sell a product. We don't have special things that we try to sell. And the person we usually have, we interview every week, is a person that is a live person that sees patients, that helps heal the world, that helps change the chemistry. And we want to be a part of your life too. And if you have questions or if you have need of medical information, let us know, because each week we have a different specialist with us. This week we have Dr. Summa Chadwick, and she's going to talk to us about what she does in the field of autism. And as you know, some of you might know, some of you might not know, that April is Autism Awareness Month. People are talking about autism, and it's something that we need to talk about greatly. I don't know if you realize it, but right now 1 in 50 children now suffer from autism, and it's more common in the males. And this number, unfortunately, has been going up. Either the diagnosis is getting better or the prevalence. And there's many questions that are unanswered in the field of autism. And we're going to talk about autism during this next hour. Not that we have all the answers, but we want to let you know that you're not alone. There's people that care about you. There's people that are thinking about you. And if you might have an experience that you want to share with the entire world, give us a call, 855-644-3278. We'd like to hear from you if you have something to share about autism. After the break, we're going to be back with Dr. Summa Chadwick, so don't go away. You're watching Heart of Health Live. Our phone number, once again, 855-644-3278. We're going to be right back after this short break.
The Heart of Health Live will return in just a moment.
The Heart of Health Live is brought to you by Heartwise Ministries.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tim Jennings with your Mental Health Minute. Would you like to experience better physical and mental health? Then consider volunteering in your community. Studies have shown that youth who give of their time to help others perform better in school, have greater self-confidence, and are more likely to become leaders in society than those who do not. And amongst adults, those who volunteer experience better physical and mental health, lower rates of disability while maintaining their autonomy as they age. And amazingly, these benefits persisted even after taking into account baseline limitations, socioeconomic status, health status, employment, exercise, smoking, and marital status. When we volunteer to help others, we activate the brain's love circuits, which calm the brain's fear circuits, reducing inflammation, thereby reducing physical and mental illness. To be smart requires a healthy brain, so be smart, live to give.
To learn more about mental health, visit comeandreason.com.
My life is full of statistics. Thing is, I could have dropped out of school and become one myself, but I didn't, because I had people that believed in me. Here's another statistic. 7,000 students drop out every school day. That's 1 every 26 seconds. It's time that students know that we believe in them.
Inspire a student and share your message of support at boostup.org.
I'm Dr. James Marcum, and I talk to patients every day who want to know the truth in healthcare. On our website, heartwiseministries.org, you can have your questions answered. You can read my blog where I talk about interesting and controversial subjects in medicine. You might choose to go to the radio or television sections and learn more about all sorts of health topics. take the time and go to heartwiseministries.org.
Medicines That Kill from cardiologist Dr. James Marcum is now available. In his newest book, Dr. Marcum explains why he believes that medications may very well be the #1 cause of death in America. Medicines That Kill uncovers the hidden risks associated with modern pharmaceuticals and outlines the biblical plan for physical and spiritual health. To find out how to get your copy, visit our website at heartwiseministries.org or call us toll-free at 855-644-3278.
You've got questions, we've got answers on the Heart of Health Live. Welcome back.
We're glad you've joined us. You're watching Heart of Health Live if you just happen to flip through your stations, and we are a live program. You can give us a call, 855-644-3278. And this evening we're going to talk about a subject that I must admit, as a cardiologist in reviewing this, there's not a lot of answers. There's more questions, but we know it's a big problem. We need to talk about it. We need to support each other. We need to increase awareness. And with that in mind, we've invited Dr. Summa Chadwick to be with us on Heart of Health Live. We want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And tell us, what got you interested in music therapy and autism? How did you arrive at what you're doing today?
Well, piano is my main thing, and I was teaching a student probably about 20 years or so ago who had an autistic sibling. She was 4 years old, and she displayed most of the typical autism traits. She would go around the room with her head going into the corners, and she was nonverbal, except she was echolalic. She would repeat things, but you know. And her mother asked, would you teach her to play the piano? And at that point I thought, well, I'll give it a shot, sure. You know, it was beyond the realm of what I had done anything before, but I used what I knew as my standard techniques, and it was pretty much a disaster. And then her mother found out that she was a whiz with computers. And I had notational software loaded on my computer at home. We took her there. She learned how to read music on the computer. We plugged in the keyboard. She started playing. She started singing. We took the computer away. We took her to the keyboard. Her singing continued. Her verbal skills continued. And she actually was able to mainstream in 2nd grade.
Now, let me stop. What is notational software? What's that?
Notational software is where music is printed on the page of the software, so that it actually teaches you how to read music, right, on the computer. Exactly. So, but you know, I remember at that point watching this little girl come alive, and it was the first time in my life that the hair stood up on the back of my neck. And I thought, you know, this is so powerful. If there's any way that I can do this, this is what I'm going to do.
So you actually have degrees in music,
yes,
and
yes,
so you trained formally.
Correct.
But I guess they don't have training programs for people that working with autistic children.
Well, there's a certification program for music therapists to get an official certification. When I got my doctorate out in Kansas, at that point I requested that they let me take 1/3 of the degree in music therapy. Which they did, so I got the knowledge that way too.
Well, for some of our viewers that don't know, what is music therapy? What is that?
Music therapy began as a vocation shortly after World War II, and basically groups of musicians would go around and play in bands at the VA hospitals, and so it was noticed then that people felt better after the music. They didn't know why, but they knew people felt better. And so the vocation began then, and it has grown into a marvelous vocation with the neurologic music therapy especially coming along in the late 80s, which is basically the evidence-based, research-based science. So that's been a lot of fun getting into.
Well, I've noticed now there's research out there that says music changes your chemistry.
It does.
Changes your brain.
It does.
Just like pills do. So there's a whole new field that's opening up.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
So you got your degree. You found out that you can help people. So how has it evolved since then and what you've been doing?
Well, I developed a 501c3, and the mission of our 501c3 is basically to work with these techniques and work with children and advocate for the music therapy, and eventually hopefully be able to automate it into some software so that it will be available to everybody at low or no cost.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Well, what's neat about this is, I don't know if you've been watching the news this week, but President Obama just said $100 million to help the brain.
Right.
So President Obama, if you're listening out there, Dr. Summa would like a little bit of that so she can help develop the brain this way. But let's stop for a moment. You know, a lot of people don't know what autism is, okay? And I make sure I'm getting this right.
Sure.
It's not a blood work that you do.
Correct.
And it's not anything, it's sort of based on behavior. And what I do my research is they have impaired development in either the social interactions, you know, intuition, that. The second thing is they have communication impairments. And then they have some type of restrictive and repetitive behavior.
Correct.
And that sort of, and usually it happens early on, you know, usually before the age of 3. And then they have some sort of overlap. One is sort of Asperger's, where they have the lack of delay of the cognitive development. The language is not there, but the other ones are. And then they have one called pervasive development disorder, which is sort of an overlap syndrome.
Right.
But all of these are basically the same things on differing degrees.
The spectrum is huge. It is huge. You go from severely autistic all the way up to mildly autistic with every level in between. And these kids all have, you know, it manifests in different problems with all of them.
Now, in what you're doing, I mean, do you typically see people that are mildly impaired or a lot impaired in the people that come to you?
The most impaired that I've had is severely to moderate. I'd say I haven't had the kind of impairment where somebody's actually sitting in a chair and not able to move, kind of thing. But moderate to severe, I've dealt with quite a bit.
And you know, it seems like it's just dramatic. But when you see someone that makes them, and you have a website out there that has
Correct.
a great example of someone. So what's your website?
The website is www.mtgic.org, and there is an example of a video out there of a young man.
That was very powerful.
Right.
I mean, that's almost like proof of everything that what it does is how it changes the chemistry much more than a pill or some of the other things.
Exactly.
Very powerful. If you're listening and have a comment, especially we'd love to have comments of people that might have autistic families, where you have children that are autistic, because it affects the whole family.
Oh, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
And it's so stressful to these families. You know, having one child, it's horrible.
And everyone needs support. And during our program today, we're going to give some resources that you can go to. We're going to talk about music therapy, what it actually looks like. So we want you to join in and be a blessing to others. Our phone number is 855-644-3278. You can also leave your comments at our website, that's heartwiseministries.org, or the ever popular medium of Facebook.
There you go.
Everyone's going into Facebook here. So now that you've been doing it for a while, okay, I guess you've sort of developed some techniques,
right,
and sort of a pathway that
right.
leads to those.
Right.
And, you know, we have a couple minutes here, but why don't you start telling us, if someone came to you de novo, where would you start?
Okay. Well, I follow a model that was developed out at Colorado State University, and this is where the neurologic music therapy techniques were really first discovered and worked. And the model is basically 5 steps. It's to diagnose and assess. So you really have to know, you know, what is the specific problem and how is it manifesting? And there may be motor problems, there may be speech problems, there may be cognition problems. Those are the 3 things that we cope with. And so that's the first step. You got to know what it is. The second step is then we've got to set some goals. What do we want to do? The third step is figuring out how you would work kind of an exercise approach into those goals. Like, what would you want to, if you were just working with a speech person or a PT, what would you want to do? And then the very important 4th step, how do you add music to that step?
Okay.
And then the 5th step is eventually we withdraw the music, because life doesn't come with a soundtrack. So we're actually, what we're doing, like when we're talking about somebody's attention span, is we're training their attention span. We're not training them to be playing music with an attention span. We're actually training them to have a longer attention span with various things we do with music. Wow. So it's really cool stuff. Yeah,
I would just love to see the studies of these PET scans before you do this and PET scans after, and how the activity of the brain increases. Yeah. Well, we want you to be a part of our program. Give us a call, 855-644-3278, with your questions or comments. We're going to come back from break in just a few seconds here, and we're going to actually look at some of these interesting things we have here and see how this actually looks on a practical level. We want you to stay with us. We're here with Dr. Summa Chadwick. She's given us a website. We're going to have some more resources. We're going to be right back after this break, so don't go away.
The Heart of Health Live will return in just a moment.
I'd like to think that one day, when we get to heaven, we're going to see a list of people like Jared and Susan, who were introduced to Jesus because of something we said. Or maybe it was as simple as a passing smile. But these people will look into their past and be able to say, I'm here because of you. Recently, you may have heard that HeartWise Ministries has begun spreading the gospel to the young, the old, the sick, and the healthy using this very television program. But we need your help. We want to take this type of medical programming to the non-believer and the person who has closed themselves off to traditional forms of outreach. If you believe as we do and want to support HeartWise so that together we can count more names on the Tree of Life, please consider donating today at heartwiseministries.org. That's heartwiseministries.org.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
The Ultimate Prescription by cardiologist Dr. James Marcum is taking the nation by storm. People everywhere are learning what living a healthy life is all about. If you're happy living a drug-filled, pain-filled, mundane existence, this book is definitely not for you. In this book, Dr. Marcum dives into modern medicine's strengths and weaknesses and explains how lifestyle choices can significantly impact your health. To get your copy, visit Barnes & Noble or shop online at Amazon.com.
You've got questions, we've got answers on the Heart of Health Live. Welcome back.
Well, we're having the questions come in now, and if you might have questions or comments regarding autism, give us a call. Our phone number is 855-644-3278. Our operators are standing by, welcoming your call. And Dr. Summa Chadwick, I'm just going to call you Dr. Summa because it's easy to remember.
Sure.
Okay. This person wrote in, can you just, the stroke, music therapy helps strokes also. We've talked about how it helps autism. Can it help strokes?
It absolutely does. Strokes manifest in so many different areas of the body. Typically there's, half the body that is affected with something, and plus the speech is generally affected with things. I think if you look at a good example of brain damage and what can happen with stroke, a lot of the times an area called the Broca's area will be damaged with a stroke, and that is the language area. And what music can do, there's a technique called melodic intonation therapy, which basically helps start getting that going in a musical area. So I, as a therapist, would start to tap a rhythm into you, and then I'd hum and start singing, and eventually, this is a long process, of course, I'm encapsulating it, but eventually you're going to be able to deal with the singing even if you couldn't deal with the speech, because this the condition of stroke creates aphasia or apraxia in a lot of patients, and we can use the speech techniques with this music to help redirect the neural areas so that we can really regrow at that point and start using them in a different way.
And I know it's not only strokes. I know there's some traumatic brain injury.
Absolutely.
And almost any, and even dementia.
Well, and a classic example is Gabby Giffords. You know, that's, how horrible was that? And she could not speak after all that damage in her frontal lobe, and yet she was able to start singing. And it was the melodic intonation therapy that got her going on all that.
That is so interesting, but you think, these are examples where it helps a brain that's been damaged. How much could it help a brain that's forming?
Yes, exactly, exactly. Yes.
And so if you're out there and you have some kids, get them involved in music, grow some
the earlier the better. The earlier the better, yep.
We have a psychiatrist that we work with, Dr. Tim Jennings, and he's really wants children to be creative, help grow those parts of brains. We weren't really made to sit in front of TVs and gaming devices all day long and do those things. So we want to be creative and do those things. So the answer to that question, yes, stroke benefits can benefit. Now you brought a lot of instruments and devices, and just sort of walk through how these might help someone with autism,
Sure.
help their brain out.
Sure. All of these instruments are things that you really don't have to know how to play in order to play.
Okay.
And so what we want to do, if I were working with, let's take an example of an autistic person who is moderate to severe and really nonverbal. And maybe they kind of did a hunched over kind of thing like this. What I would want to do is I would want to get them so that they were really sitting up, and I could do that starting with some exercises of holding a drum up and getting them to reach like this. Or I could have a keyboard out here and make them reach like that. So that you have all of these different examples of things that you can use to basically create a therapeutic exercise to change the body, what you want to do with that. Or we could also use it for cognition training. One of the things that this music is great for is attention control. And most kids with autism have real problems paying attention.
Right.
So if I say to somebody, okay, I'm going to play for you, Mary Had a Little Lamb. Bum, ba, bum, bum, bum. And when you hear Mary Had a Little Lamb, I want you to pick up this little scrunchy thing. When I change it to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, bum, 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 I want you to switch over to one of these eggs. Okay? They're having to pay attention to the music. It is motivating, it is rewarding, it is engaging, it is doing things that they want to see and do, and it's basically creating a place where they're starting to focus and pay attention. And I had a young man at one point that I started working with when he was, I think, 9, and I believe his best attention span at that point was about 15 seconds. And we did this technique where we actually got up to 12 songs and 12 different instruments. And I have a video of him going for 7.5 minutes. Wow. And the thing is, that's not playing instruments for 7.5 minutes, that is focusing. And then we can take that and say, all right, this is going to be the ability to focus in the classroom now for 7.5 minutes. Right. The transfer is going to be made on that. So you can do amazing things with all of these things. And again, you know, some of these, I keep different contextual things around because these kids are so sensory deprived, so that you can get different tactile kind of feels in your hand doing a lot of these things. You have different sensory sounds with all that. You can start a beat and have going along with a beat. There's just bunches and bunches of things to do, and it basically is a matter, again, of what is your goal? What are you trying to do?
Now tell me about, we were talking off air about these internal rhythms.
Yes, yes.
Tell us about that a little bit.
Yes, everyone has what we call a functional tempo, and tempo is the musical word for time, okay? So it's basically, the research from Colorado has basically shown that the tempo, the functional tempo for each person kind of equates to their heart rate, and we can find it by watching how someone walks. So you can watch a child walk across the room, and typically a child's functional tempo is going to be a lot faster than an adult's. And so you watch them walk and determine that they're walking at 120 beats per minute. So you're going to start playing your music at 120 beats per minute, because that is where they are best going to react at that point. Now, if the child is hyperactive and you want to start calming them down, then the research shows that we can do plus or minus 5% on that metronome, and the body will not realize. So I can tick that down to 116 beats per minute, start to very slowly calm that child down, bring it down to 112, et cetera, et cetera. Now with a stroke person, you'd probably want to do the opposite. They're probably walking very, very slowly, and maybe the best they can do is 48. Right. But then they start doing that walk, getting the gait training. And gait training is, you know, it's so intrinsic. We do a lot with walking with this. Then we can bring them up to 52. And then we can bring them up to 56. And, you know, eventually the walk is just much easier to do that way. So it's really cool stuff. The functional tempo is very important. If your functional tempo is 92, and I start playing at 120 and ask you to move along with me, you're not going to move along that great. But if your functional tempo is 92 and I start at 92, you're going to have no problem with whatever that PT exercise or whatever it is that you're trying to do.
So this might help someone that's hyperactive?
Yes, yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Wow, and then if you can get their hyperactivity settled down, they might learn in other ways.
Exactly, exactly, right.
This is very, very, very exciting stuff, very exciting stuff. A couple things I wanted to go on before we go is let everyone know there's some warning signs of children that might, and we want to pick up this early, right? The earlier you get them, the better.
Absolutely, yes,
okay?
yes.
Some warning signs. If your child's not babbling by 12 months, no gesturing by 12 months, no single words by 16 months of age, no 2 words by 24 months of age, or loss of any language skills, this might be a warning sign that you might want to get some help right away.
Yes.
And now, how long does it take to change when you start these things? I guess the earlier you get them, the more progress you make.
Yeah, it really is. It comes in much better if you start it earlier. You know, I think a classic example is when you start to work with adults and they're so set in whatever they do, it's really hard to undo some things. And that even stroke you find in adults, they're expecting to do.
Okay, we have to go to break right now. The phone lines are open at 855-644-3278. After the break, we're going to talk about some resources and websites you might go to learn more about autism. We're in April's Autism Awareness Month. Stay with us on Heart of Health Live.
We'll return in just a moment.
Could It Be This Simple changed my life. What an amazing and solid yet fulfilling and liberating message Dr. Jennings provides. I loved it.
It is liberating. It frees your mind from all your mental turmoil and teaches you what is really going on.
This book is amazing and makes so much sense. It shows God as a God of love rather than an arbitrary, exacting God.
I am so grateful that a friend suggested I read Could It Be This Simple? It has helped me fine-tune my thinking.
This book not only helps the mind to heal, but helps to liberate the emotions by bringing them into balance. You will be captivated with the case studies liberally sprinkled throughout this small, easy-to-read book. I dare you to read it.
Get your copy of Could It Be This Simple? A biblical model for healing the mind at Amazon.com or wherever books are sold.
I'm Dr. James Marcum, and I talk to patients every day who want to know the truth in healthcare. On our website, heartwiseministries.org, you can have your questions answered. You can read my blog where I talk about interesting and controversial subjects in medicine. You might choose to go to the radio or television sections and learn more about all sorts of health topics. Take the time and go to heartwiseministries.org. Hi, I'm Dr. James Marcum, speaker, director of Heartwise Ministries. And at Heartwise, our goal is to bring people into a relationship with the Heavenly Father using modern medicine and the healing principles found in the Bible. We teach people that there is a place for modern medicine and a healthy lifestyle, but it is in a relationship with their Creator where ultimate healing can occur. Over the past years, our ability to share this message of truth, love, and healing around the world has increased exponentially. But to continue this steady growth, we need your help. We are looking and praying for 100 individuals willing to give $1,000 a year. If the Spirit is moving you to become one of the Heartwise 100, won't you consider donating online today at heartwiseministries.org.
You've got questions, we've got answers on the Heart of Health Live. Welcome back.
Dr. Summa, we've had quite a few people request you give your website again so they can go learn more about all the stuff that you're doing and also see some of these amazing examples. Could you just sort of give that website again for us?
Sure, yeah, it's www.mtgic.org.
That's www.mtgic.org.
Correct.
Okay, great. Well, we have some questions that have come in, and you know, it's okay to send your questions if you don't want to talk on the phone, but our phone number, if you do want to talk, is 855-644-3278. And this question says, do autistic children always isolate themselves? I have heard that sound bothers them. Is that true? And I've never heard any discussions about what autistic people experience. Now, some of these questions might not have answers, but in your experience, how would you answer these?
In my experience, I have seen them self-isolate a lot.
Okay.
Some of that is not wanting to deal with social situations, and quite frankly, some of it is because they've been made fun of and don't want to cope with people at this point. Right. I've seen a lot of autistic kids that know that they're different, and it's really unfortunate, you know, that their self-esteem has kind of been felt on that. On the sensory issues, a lot of them, yes, and I have actually had kids wearing, you know, headsets to try to protect them from the noise. Now, the interesting thing on this is, like when we start to play the drums, you know, you'll immediately get an effect like this, but then as they get used to things, then they'll start to play the drums themselves, and they'll start to get louder and louder and louder, and it doesn't bother when they're initiating the sound. And so you have to, when you're dealing with the sensory issue, you have to start very small and slow and build up, and eventually I've seen a lot of these kids be able to tolerate sound fairly well. So.
Now the third part of this question, I don't know if anyone can answer this. I've never heard any about what autistic people experience.
Well, from reading, one of the most very famous autistic people is Dr. Temple Grandin, who's a professor out at Colorado State University. And she wrote a book called Thinking in Pictures, where she explains that basically her mind is kind of like a video camera, getting all kinds of shots of things and downloading files to be able to see the pictures. So it's not thinking verbally like the rest of us typically think verbally. It's more thinking in pictures. I haven't experienced it, but I understand from a lot of people that that's what happens. And I've worked with enough kids with the autism where I've put up visual aids rather than trying to say, this is what we're going to do next. I show them a picture, and it's much more effective. So I think the visual processing is a really big part of it.
Well, you know, I'm glad that April is Autism Awareness Month because, you know, looking at the economic, you know, a child born in 2000 with autism, the lifetime cost is almost $4 million. And autism is not only a disease of that person, but it's a disease of the family.
It is. It is. It's terrible on the family. It's a, you know, and unfortunately, a stat to go along with that is that 85% of families end up in a divorce situation when they have 85%.
Now, if someone's out there listening, you know, sometimes I guess the families feel isolated. That, you know, there's, you know, the school systems really aren't prepared to deal with
that. They're getting there. They're turning the corner, but they're not there yet. I agree.
But what are some websites that you found valuable that might, you know, we got your website, which is mtgic.org. But what are some other ones that might be interesting?
Well, I actually I have a lot of links on my website.
Okay, good.
I have links to the American Music Therapy Association. And you can get a full list of certified music therapists in your area. I have links to where research is being done at Colorado State, and also there's a marvelous research facility over in Hanover, Germany, doing research on musicians that has turned up all kinds of interesting brain research that they're now focusing on how we can turn over to other, you know, other individuals. I've got links to the Autism Society and autism research. There's just really a plethora of things out there at this point. Visual aids, there's a place you can get free visual aids downloading on that. I actually have a few sound bites on my website too, where I guess it was about 6 months or so ago I started accompanying one of my little students to the doctor's office, and I carried my small harp with me. And this little girl is partial blind, partial deaf, hydrocephalus, and cerebral palsy, and she just, doctor's appointments were a disaster. And I brought the harp, and it calmed her right down. And so these little snippets are out there where, you know, maybe you can download them onto your iPod and play them to your child too.
That's excellent, excellent idea. You know, so many, you know, I'm sort of glad we have an internet now because it used to be, you know, people would feel isolated and all alone.
Correct.
And, you know, families need to know that there's hope out there, there's people out there that's caring, there's people out there that's working on this, and we want to help people network together to support each other in this. And this is a very major, and what I was surprised in researching that, we still don't know really what causes it. There's lots of theories.
Tons of theories, but the actual cause, no. I agree, there's no really known fact on that.
And I think I'm glad people are doing research, because I think it's going to be a little bit of everything isolated. We really don't have great treatments at this point. We're just now starting to learn. But I think a couple things that I think you pointed out is it's better if we find out early.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Early on.
Yes. Yes.
And start interventions early.
Yes.
And before the brain even develops more, it's harder to retrain.
Well, and as far as music goes, there's even a study out there where it was done where it shows that the corpus callosum, the thing that ties the two halves of the brain together, is much stronger in kids who have started studying musical instruments before age 7. Wow. Isn't that amazing?
It is. And what's the youngest person that you've actually had brought to you?
The youngest person probably was 5, I think, yes, yes. And it's taking a shorter amount of time to get the diagnosis at this point, but it was really hard to get that diagnosis for a long time, and so they didn't really know. Well, they just knew my child's different, but I don't know what it is. There's a problem, and it took a while to get the autism diagnosis on it. So, getting that diagnosis out there a little bit earlier at this point, I think, is better too.
It's going to be a big thing for us. Now, I know there's music therapy. What are other types of therapy that people that you know about that are doing for autism right now?
Oh, there's art therapy, and there's water therapy, and one of the big ones is horse therapy.
Horse therapy.
They're doing
I would not like that one. Did you know? I am definitely scared of horses. I would not like horse therapy.
Children with autism have a real affinity for animals, and animals seem to have a real affinity for them. I mean, I've seen, animals just going to a special needs child and just, like a magnet. My little blind deaf girl, as a matter of fact, just got a therapy dog, and it's a marvelous thing. And for one thing, the therapy dog, the child is sleeping through the night now. She had never slept through the night, but the presence of the animal is helping the child sleep through the night. Fascinating stuff.
That is, there's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
There's so much we can learn, and that's why I'm glad you're talking about some of these. Now, if a person how would they find out if this was available in their town, this type of treatment?
Going to the American Music Therapy Association and looking up a list of certified music therapists is probably the first thing. There's also, I have an international link on my website for those who are not in this country at this point. But really finding out through that avenue is the best thing. And then, if that isn't around, music, exposure to music on any level. If for some reason you can't find a music therapist, start exposing to music. Even if it's finding a piano teacher who's willing to work with you on, well, it might not be traditional stuff, but maybe I can help you in another way.
That's exciting stuff. So you also often wonder, maybe we should start playing the music even before babies are born. There's some studies on that, how music. I know my wife used to play my son and daughter music when they were in the womb too. So, I don't know if it helped them out any, but we'll find out later in life. We're going to come back to Gene after our short break. You can give us a call, 855-644-3278. April is Autism's Awareness Month. And this is a major problem. We need to talk about it. We need to support people, and we need to let people know that there is help out there. Stay with us, Gene. We're going to be right back with you. Dr. Summa is going to answer your question after this break.
The Heart of Health Live will return in just a moment.
I'd like to think that one day, when we get to heaven, we're going to see a list of people like Jared and Susan, who were introduced to Jesus because of something we said. Or maybe it was as simple as a passing smile. But these people will look into their past and be able to say, I'm here because of you. Recently, you may have heard that Heartwise Ministries has begun spreading the gospel to the young, the old, the sick, and the healthy using this very television program. But we need your help. We want to take this type of medical programming to the non-believer and the person who has closed themselves off to traditional forms of outreach. If you believe as we do and want to support Heartwise so that together we can count more names on the Tree of Life, please consider donating today at heartwiseministries.org. That's heartwiseministries.org.
Have you ever heard things about God that didn't make sense? Have you ever thought that science and Scripture cannot be reconciled? Have you heard ideas about God that scare you? Or are you just tired and confused? If you want answers to complex problems, if you want a testable, evidence-based understanding of God and the world around you, an understanding in which the Bible and science harmonize to reveal the reality that God is love all the time, then Come and Reason Ministries is for you. Hi, I'm Dr. Tim Jennings, board-certified psychiatrist, and Come and Reason Ministries is dedicated to helping you learn to discern, to stimulate you to think, to help hone and refine your ability to know the right from the wrong, the healthy from the unhealthy, and teach you how to experience healing of your mind, body, and relationships here and now. If you would like an evidence-based approach to knowing God, then visit us online at comeandreason.com.
Medicines That Kill from cardiologist Dr. James Marcum is now available. In his newest book, Dr. Marcum explains why he believes that medications may very well be the #1 cause of death in America. Medicines That Kill uncovers the hidden risks associated with modern pharmaceuticals and outlines the biblical plan for physical and spiritual health. To find out how to get your copy, visit our website at heartwiseministries.org or call us toll-free at 855-644-3278.
You've got questions, we've got answers on the Heart of Health Live. Welcome back.
Gene, we're glad you've joined us and stayed with us. You're on the air with Dr. Summa. Go ahead, Gene. Gene, going once. Gene, you there? Gene, going twice. Gene, I hear you.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead, Gene.
10 years ago, I had a stroke. I noticed when she said something about stroke victims, my ears perked up. And for all practical purposes, I'm completely healed. I work every day. I do everything, but I can't. I used to play the guitar, and I can't get my fingers to work right anymore. What is there an exercise or something I could be doing?
Have you considered playing a smaller necked instrument, actually, like a banjo or a ukulele or something like that? Because maybe, you know, some of it could be the stroke, but some of it could just be an aging process. Mm-hmm. And it could be that trying to just play something a little bit smaller might do a little bit better for you. I'm not a big advocate of hand exercises as a pianist, just because they can do as much damage as theoretically they can undo. So I just generally tend to try to be very careful with my playing. And the thing you have to understand is that your muscles have to be very balanced out to play the musical instrument. And most musical instruments, we're not necessarily born balanced to play. Right. You have to figure out how to do it. So I would say just be really careful that you're not doing something bizarre with a twist. And you know, possibly consider practicing on a smaller necked instrument that might not be as bad.
Or you could try a different instrument.
Sure, sure, yeah.
Okay, Gene. Well, thank you for giving us a call tonight, Gene.
All right, thank you. Very helpful.
Thank you, Gene. Brenda, you're on with Dr. Summa. Go ahead, Brenda.
Hello, doctors.
Hello.
Okay, the reason why I'm calling, the reason why I'm calling is because I have an autistic adult son. He'll be 30 this year. And I was wondering what kind of services there for adult children, you know, for housing and nursing care. And I'm still a working parent. I'm 52. And I have a hard time just finding care for him while I work.
You know, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of situations where kids turn 21 and suddenly they leave the system. They're taken care of through the system until they're 21. And I think you really have to just search hard. There are some housing opportunities out there with joint housing, and I know from what I understand with the people that I work with children with autism, there's a real awareness of this problem out there right now. I'm not sure there are that many solutions to it right now, but it seems to, the awareness wave is going.
So any websites she might go to, or
again, I would
Yeah.
I would go to the Autism Society. I would go to the
Right.
autism research organizations. I would go to anything that supports people with autism, and just really start digging through what is available on that. The Autism Society webpage is really good. I've got a link to that from my website, and they do a great job with things.
And Brenda, that's part of the reason we're doing this program tonight is get the awareness so people start thinking about this, so programs will be developed so people won't have to struggle to find programs that may or may not exist out there.
Right. Right, and I know there are residential areas, like here in Chattanooga we have Signal Centers, we have Orange Grove, where adult residents can actually take part in programs, and that's actually, you know, wonderful for a small city like Chattanooga to have that. And unfortunately it's just not available in a lot of areas, but the awareness is out there, I think, that it's needed.
Well, Brenda, I wish we had a place we could send you to, but where are you from, Brenda?
I'm in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
And I've been, he's been diagnosed with infantile autism since he was 2. And it's really been a struggle.
Well, I bet you in the size of Milwaukee, there ought to be something that some group there, or support group that, are you interacting with other people with autism that have children too?
No, I'm not.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
His autism is severe.
Okay.
I was going to suggest, if you find other people like yourself who are having this situation, even if you found one other person, you guys can try to get together and maybe, you know, trade off in a situation and create a movement that maybe might help with all that.
Okay.
Brenda,
is there any way I can get your website?
Yeah, let me give that again. It's www.mtgic, that's mtgic.org. Okay?
And there is a link to the Autism Society website.
And this will give you some other. And Brenda, one thing, thank you for calling. And you know, and sometimes there's not always answers. And on Heart of Health, we let people know is that, you know, there's a place for modern medicine, but it sometimes can't fix anything, and sometimes with lifestyle we can't. But you know, I really think that relationship with God will give us the ability to heal in God's time. So I want to encourage you to, if you don't plug into that as well. That will help give you strength, Brenda. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your call. You know, that's a problem. You know, we don't have the resources. When children get older, they still have healthy other parts of their bodies. You know, what do you do?
That's correct. And, you know, if for some reason this person is a behavioral problem, suddenly you have somebody 6 foot tall that's a behavioral problem instead of, you know, 3 feet tall that's a behavioral problem. And, you know, that's an issue.
And that's why it's just not a one, you know, it's a family condition. Well, well, I'm just glad Brenda called. And if you want to give us a call, we still have some time, 855-644-3278. This question's come in regarding helping a patient that can't hear, that might have some dementia or other problems. How do you help people that can't hear with music?
Well, music can be felt through the body. And for instance, when I pick up my auto harp and I play it, I'm getting that vibration going through my body at that point. And so I have not worked with anybody profoundly deaf, but I have worked with partially deaf people, and the vibration is so important on this. When you stop to think about, you know, how even just, and I can feel that going through my body. And so what you want to do, percussion instruments are really good because they create great vibration for that kind of thing. And of course, percussion instruments are good anyway because you don't really have to know how to play them to get sound out of them. So for the deaf individuals, you know, concentrate on the tactile, the feel, the sensation, all of that that's coming in. And if you can get a beat going, if you can find that functional tempo for a deaf person and get a really loud beat going that's going to create a lot of vibration, they're going to be able to do some things to that vibration.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. There's so many ways we can communicate other than sound.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
You know, whether it be tactile or smell, or taste.
Correct.
Lots of ways to communicate.
Correct.
Well, I think that's, and you know, anyone, you can sort of find those ways that we can communicate. We just got to think outside the box a little bit. Okay, we still have time for your question. We're talking with Dr. Summa. She has a website. That's www.mtgic.org. You can give us a call at 855-644-3278. Join us on Facebook or join us on the web at heartwiseministries.org. And we will try to, at least if we can't answer your questions, at least we can let you know that we care, we're there for you. And as Brenda called in last time, it's a tough problem to have. It affects the entire families, and we need to get the awareness out there. And that's why April is Autism Awareness Month. It affects about 1 in 50 children. The economic impact is staggering. So stay with us. We're going to go to a short break. The phone lines are now open, so you can give us a call. 855-644-3278. Stay with us. We're going to be right back after this short break.
The Heart of Health Live will return in just a moment.
I'm Dr. James Marcum, and I talk to patients every day who want to know the truth in healthcare. On our website, heartwiseministries.org, you can have your questions answered. You can read my blog where I talk about interesting and controversial subjects in medicine. You might choose to go to the radio or television sections and learn more about all sorts of health topics. Take the time and go to heartwiseministries.org.
Medicines That Kill from cardiologist Dr. James Marcum is now available. In his newest book, Dr. Marcum explains why he believes that medications may very well be the #1 cause of death in America. Medicines That Kill uncovers the hidden risks associated with modern pharmaceuticals and outlines the biblical plan for physical and spiritual health. To find out how to get your copy, visit our website at heartwiseministries.org or call us toll-free at 855-644-3278.
Hi, I'm Dr. James Marcum, speaker, director of Heartwise Ministries. And at Heartwise, our goal is to bring people into a relationship with the Heavenly Father using modern medicine and the healing principles found in the Bible. We teach people that there is a place for modern medicine and a healthy lifestyle, but it is in a relationship with their Creator where ultimate healing can occur. Over the past years, our ability to share this message of truth, love, and healing around the world has increased exponentially. But to continue this steady growth, we need your help. We are looking and praying for 100 individuals willing to give $1,000 a year. If the Spirit is moving you to become one of the Heartwise 100, won't you consider donating online today at heartwiseministries.org.
You've got questions, we've got answers on the Heart of Health Live. Welcome back.
We've got our last segment. We've got 2 or 3 questions we want to get to. And Dr. Summa, what is the difference between a learning disability and autism? And remember, we defined autism as impaired social interaction, communication, and restrictive and repetitive behavior. I guess a learning, you can have autism and have a learning disability.
Right. Or you can just have a learning disability and not have autism. You know,
right.
you could have a situation where you really couldn't read very well, but you're not autistic.
Right.
So you know, the two can be mutually exclusive on that.
Yeah. And here's another one. This is a person that's an autistic adult. Music therapy hasn't seemed to help as much. But they have a dog and wanted to know a little bit about music therapy for the dog. Do animals need special training, or can you just go get one down at the kennel?
No, you don't get a therapy dog at the kennel. The little girl that just got the therapy dog that I was talking about earlier, that dog had been trained for 3 years.
3 years.
Right, okay. Exactly, before they were letting the dog out. These dogs are extraordinary animals and extraordinarily highly trained dogs. They'll go from house to house to start getting used to things. I have friends who train them in their very early stages and make sure they get used to going to grocery stores and all that, and then they start getting trained for other things.
And I guess they could maybe find a website that had places they could go to get these trained dogs.
Yeah, I think if you kind of Google on
trained dogs for autism.
Yeah, exactly.
What we do without Google. I don't know. I Google everything. Beth, you're on the air with Dr. Summa. Go ahead, Beth.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm a recovering cancer patient. I'm recovering from chemo, and I have some brain fog, and my attention levels are not what they should be. And back in 2002, I had a double rollover in the wheat field in a car and had a lot of bumps on my head. Can this music therapy help me with my attention level?
I think absolutely, yes. What you're basically looking for on that, you probably have some damage somewhere, and so you can use the music to basically redirect the neural plasticity so that it starts to grow in areas maybe that it wasn't quite meant to grow in, but you can do that with the music. And again, I think the Gabby Gifford story is a really good example of that.
Now, is this something I can do myself, or do I need to see a music therapist?
You know, I would talk to a music therapist about it. I would also, out on my website, there's a link to the Colorado State University Center for Biomedical Music and Research, and they have thousands of research documents out there that they've done with all of this. So it's a really helpful place to go to say, this is what we've done. You know, arm yourself with some knowledge on what you can do. There's one of these principles is called MACT, Musical Attention Control Training, and it's done just for that, to help encourage attention control.
Thank you.
Well,
You're welcome.
Thank you, Beth. Before we go, we want to give Dr. Summa's website again. That's where we can, get more information. You can link all this. That's www.mtgic.org. And this field is growing, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of people that call in and let us know. And we want you to thank you for spending the time to join us, and hopefully you can find some time to go back in, because this is a field that's going to continue to grow. And as we learn more, we're going to have more to offer. And I just wish we had more to offer everyone. But I want to thank each one of you for joining us this week on Heart of Health Live. You can certainly join us on our Facebook page or our website. That's heartwiseministries.org. And Dr. Summa and I want to wish you the best of health. And if you know someone out there that has autism, go and give them a hug and let them know that you care. This is Autism Awareness Month. We want to thank you today for joining us on Heart of Health Live.